Welcome to Strategic Wealth Strategy with our host, Alan Porter. Alan, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. We survived a tropical storm that came through here from Hurricane, I think it was Debbie, but we got about 9 to 10 inches of rain the last couple of days. But we survived it. Some people didn't. They had a lot of tornadoes. A couple people were killed here in North Carolina. Our hearts go out to them, but my family is safe, thank God.
All right. We have an exciting show. So introduce our guests, Alan.
This is Bob Larsen and Daryl Hable from Settlement Masters. And I've known Bob and Daryl for many, many years. Bob's one of the premier financial advisors in the United States, and I've learned many, many things from him. But this information we have on these policy settlements, we always hear this stuff from, I believe it's Abacus, and there's one other one I can't recall right off the top of my head. Coventry, exactly. Bob, why are so many people inquiring about these life settlements?
Well, there's two reasons. One of which is the people over 70 are having an immense problem keeping their life insurance in force. Since Coventry and Abacus have been spending millions of dollars, they've been helping all of us because the awareness of this issue has risen to the top. And it's become a very, very important thing for this particular podcast to address, because there's some major reasons that we're going to talk about in this podcast that firms like ours need to be in the middle of the analytics so that the client is represented. So the advertising, Alan, has created a tremendous interest. For an example, we do some intel to find out what it is that's happening with all the advertising. And we found that Coventry and Abacus are getting 20,000 inquiries per month of people that have the problem. They don't know where to go. And so they hear it on television or radio and they call in. But we're going to tell you why you want to work with Alan Porter's recommendation today. And I'll tell you why as we move through this.
What is the biggest mistake people make when they respond to an advertisement?
So let me take that question. I think the biggest mistake that people make is the fact that they don't understand that the people they're responding to, those advertisers, sit on the side of the table of the buyer of the policy. So, best example that we can give is, think of when you bought your house as an example. You're on the buyer side of that equation. Did you offer the highest price possible for that house? No, you were always trying to acquire that property at the lowest price possible. That's the exact same thing that the advertisers are doing. I think the other mistake that people are making is, again, using the house example. When you went into that market, your real estate broker typically ran some market comps for you. You knew or had a really good gauge of what the value of a property should be. People that are answering the advertisers on TV, they have no clue what the real value of that policy is. So they're really going into it, blind in that regard.
Well, Bob, this question is for you. What should people know about their policy before they sell it?
Well, that's the heart of this issue. What Daryl said, it's really important for me to reiterate, and that is that the people on television are representing the fund. They want to buy your product, your policy, at the possible lowest price that they can get it. And they'll tell you a lot of things about their bidding and all that process, but they represent the buyer, the fund. They are not a fiduciary. They really don't care to inform the client anything about the policy for the policy owner to make a determination based on information. What firms like ours do, and we're one of the premier firms in the industry, we give the client all the information regarding keeping that contract. What should they do what should they know and what should they do to keep that policy? And then they contrast it to what the economics are in the capital markets. And so we give them both. We give them the information so they can make the best decision for their family. Nobody does that. They're only concerned about buying the contract at the lowest price. And when we get Daryl, being the president of the company, does a lot of the bidding and the process. He'll tell you about that a little later. But they really need to have all the information. When they do a settlement, they need to know that they're utilizing part of their insurance capacity. Nobody knows about that. Nobody talks about that. That means that that policy is going to stay in force forever with the buyer until they pass. So it's really important that an independent party that's a certified fiduciary, as we are, sit on the seller's side of the table, the seller being the client, and helping them discern all of the information, not just go to an advertiser that's going to they're going to represent the fund, try to get it for the lowest price.
And Bob, I want to expound on that, because these people aren't fiduciaries. And what fiduciary means, we're supposed to be looking out for the client's best interest. These people don't look out for the client's best interest. You and I are both certified financial fiduciaries. And people don't know how important that is when you're dealing with somebody.
Oh, absolutely. All right, let's go. What kind of taxes are paid when you sell your policy, Daryl?
So in most cases, I'll say, the tax, if there is a tax due, or if there is a gain on the sale of the policy, and like any other asset, if you've got a cost basis, let's say it's $100, you sell it for $300, you have a gain of $200. In most insurance situations, that gain is going to be taxed at long-term capital gain tax rates. In some situations, maybe a portion of the gain might also be taxed at ordinary income tax rates. But for the most part, it's a capital gain transaction if there's a tax at all.
Well, Bob, let me ask you this question. What are the investor pools looking for that, when they buy these policies from seniors, what are they looking for?
I'll take that. That was designated for Daryl, but if you don't mind, Daryl, I'll step in and take that.
Sure.
The investor pool is buying a policy that they fit into their investment protocol, just like they would with stocks and bonds or a real estate portfolio. They're buying a life insurance contract, and what they want to know is, what is the carry cost of the contract to age 105, which might sound a little ridiculous, but people are living longer. And so they want the contract to stay in force for as long as someone lives, because they're going to be the owner. So they're going to want to know what the carry cost is. They're going to also want to know what the health status is of the client at the inception of the transaction. So we do, in our firm, we collect all the medical records. We go through them and make sure they're clean. We get all of the doctor's reports, the hospital reports. We send these to 2 independent life expectancy firms to give us a life expectancy report. And then those 2 items, the carry cost, the life expectancy of the client, goes to the fund. And the fund can calculate, the numbers are all just mathematics. The funder can calculate actually what their return would be on a pool of 1,000 policies just like this one. And so that with that criteria, they can determine what the pool return will be. So it's a little bit scientific, but they're looking for somebody over 70, because therein lies the life expectancy of typically under 10 to 15 years. And that's one thing they're looking for. Then they're looking for a policy where the premium is not more than 5% of the death benefit annually. Those are 2 of the simple criterias that are used for us, that we are in charge of getting that information for all of the funds that we deal with. And Daryl deals with all of the top funds to get them to bet against each other and come up with the best value.
What type of firm can help you through the process while protecting you?
Daryl, as we've been describing, you have the advertisers on TV that represent the buyer. So when we think about representing the seller or the client that's selling that policy, we believe that only a firm like Settlement Masters, acting in a broker capacity, that actually goes through all of the options that that client has relative to keeping that contract, comparing it to the market value, so that they're educated and armed with all of the info that they need to make a decision that is ultimately best for their family. So we feel that it's a firm of like Settlement Masters where we are in fact a certified financial fiduciary.
Well, let me ask you a question. How do people get a hold of you if they want their policies evaluated and giving you the information? Because they absolutely want the best information to make a good decision for them and their family.
That's a good question. Daryl and I will both answer that. I'll start with the first part that I really want to emphasize that Daryl talked about. A direct funder, a provider that represents the fund, will tell you, the client, that they don't have any fees, that they're going to get 100% of the bid. That's what they'll tell you. That isn't total truth. They're going to tell you that if you deal with a middleman, a broker, you're going to pay a fee. Well, that's true. You are going to pay a fee. But let me tell you about what really happens. What really happens is we make sure that your family is not going to get in an argument over what happened, because we're going to have all the beneficiaries sign off on all the data, all the intel that comes together, so everyone knows that everybody's on the same path. The provider doesn't do that. We're going to deal with 5, maybe 6 of the largest funds in the marketplace to get them to independently bid against each other. We don't have any dog in the race, as they say. We don't have any loyalty to any of them. They're all nice people. We treat them with respect, but we're tough negotiators, and we want the client to get the highest price. When we present what it costs to keep the contract compared to the value of the contract in the secondary market, they call it, the capital markets, we want them to decide what's the best for them. Now, how to contact us, I'll let Daryl say that, but I wanted to make sure we will get the client more money, even after our fee, because of just what I told you. We get everybody in the market to that wants the contract to come up with their highest price, and it takes us about 10 days of negotiating with all of the 5 top funders, even those 2 that advertise. We get them to bid in the race, so they're bidding also against the contract, but so are 2 or 3 others. Daryl, talk about how they can contact a good firm like Settlement Masters.
Sure. So I think the first thing is we want to tip our hats to Alan Porter and his firm, because we've had a long relationship with Alan. So by all means, please reach out to Alan. In addition, you can reach Settlement Masters at phone number wise 877-927-7243. You can also reach me through an email. It's Daryl, Daryl, at thesettlementmasters.com. So it's TheSettlementMasters.com.
One last question. One last question. I don't know whether you got the numbers for this or not, but this is very important for people that are listening to this. How much do you think on average are you giving? How much larger settlements are you giving people and a percentage rate? Do you have any idea on that?
Is the question, how much more does the client get over their cash surrender value? Is that the question?
Well, the question is how much more would people get working with you as compared with working with those other Abacus and Coventry? Do you have any numbers for that?
My answer to that would not be specific, because each case would be different, but I would say at a low level, we're going to see a client receive probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 40% more dealing with us after our fees than going direct to the market. But the bigger thing is the fiduciary aspect to what we do. We protect the family in this transaction. We look at the documents that they send out to make sure that no no fund could sell off this contract to an individual. We will not allow that. The larger funds do that. They will sell off to somebody as an individual investor. We will not allow any fund to do that. We have them sign a letter indicating that they will never do that. So there's a lot behind the curtain that we do that's equally as important as the increase in value that they might get from us versus dealing with a direct provider that represents the fund and has no concern about their interest as a family.
Bob, you're also insured by Lloyd's of London, aren't you?
Lloyd's of London tell us that we're the only provider in this space that they will insure because of our compliance process, because of what we do to make sure the client is so well informed regarding fees, regarding who the buyers are, who the buyers that funded, that bid on the fund, who they are. Everyone in the family must sign off on when I say that, every beneficiary must sign off that they understand that mom and dad or the trust is going to capitalize the value of the policy versus keeping it, and the reason why. Because in some cases, one of the major trust companies gave us a case where the premium was $80,000 a year on a $5 million policy. They hadn't paid attention to it, and the premium went to $400,000 a year to keep it. Well,
Yeah.
they just looked at that and said, "There's no way." But the trust company brought us in. We were able to create a $2.7 million benefit for them instead of the $800,000 cash value that they had.
Well, that's great, Bob. But I'll tell you, just like Daryl said, if you're selling your policy, you can get a hold of me at 910-551-1046. My email is strategicwealth, the number 0 @gmail.com. And my website is www.strategicwealthstrategies.com. And I want to thank you guys because this is extremely important, especially for our aging population, because they have no idea. And it's like many things that I tell people, 99% of people out there, to include financial advisors, CPAs, and attorneys, have no idea what I'm talking about. And this is one of them.
Yes.
Totally. Great
Thank you, Alan.
information.
Thank you, Neil.
Appreciate it so much. All right. That was the Strategic Wealth Strategies podcast, guys. Take care.